Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's tale, let me first send my warmest appreciation to all my cherished listeners tuning in from Ghana, Nigeria, Guyana, South Africa, and the US. Your encouragement lifts my heart, and knowing my stories reach so many of you across the world is a joy beyond words. In tonight's story, a wealthy bachelor makes a bold wager to marry an unconventional woman, expecting nothing more than a thrill. But when the truth behind this wager comes to light, the damage may be irreversible. Can a love forged on deception withstand the storm of betrayal and guilt? This man will have to fight for a love he never knew he needed. The night was alive with laughter, the clink of crystal glasses, and the gentle hum of luxury. Nicky leaned back in his chair, swirling a glass of champagne, his gaze wandering over the crowd filling Kanta's mansion. The elite of Athena Island corporate moguls, glittering celebrities, and society's finest flaunted their designer clothes like medals of honor. This was a scene Nicky knew all too well. As the CEO of a booming oil empire and with impressive real estate deals under his belt, Nicky had wealth beyond measure. Yet, despite the luxury that surrounded him, Nicky felt an emptiness gnawing at him, a restlessness he could not ignore. "Nicky, you're awfully quiet tonight." Kanta's voice brought him back from his thoughts. Always deep in thought. "What's on your mind?" Nicky offered a faint smile. "Just the usual. Same faces, same conversations." Kanta, a sturdy man with a playful glint in his eyes, chuckled. "Still bored? Are you? Let me guess not a single lady here caught your eye." Nicky glanced around, noticing the women in exquisite dresses, their laughter ringing louder than necessary at jokes they likely didn't find funny. He sighed. "It's always the same. They're drawn to the wealth, not the person." Kanta's eyes sparkled, ever ready for a challenge. "All right, Mr. Cynic. If you're so confident, I've got a bet for you." Intrigued, Nicky leaned forward. "A bet? Go on." Kanta lowered his voice, his grin mischievous. "You claim you can win over any woman, worry. How about this? I bet you can't marry a woman completely different from your usual type." Nicky arched an eyebrow. "Different? What are we talking about here?" Kanta's grin widened. "I mean someone who isn't a size 2, doesn't wear couture, and isn't part of the high society parade. In fact, there's a baker I saw the other day, a woman named Chloe. She's not the kind you'd normally notice." Nicky chuckled, amused. "So you're daring me to marry a plus-sized woman?" Kanta nodded, eyes gleaming. "Exactly. But I'm not just saying to marry her. I bet you can keep her as your wife for half a year. If you succeed, I'll give you that prime plot of land on Athena Island you've been eyeing." Nicky's gaze sharpened. That plot of land was worth millions and had been on his wish list for months. It was a tempting offer, and his pride was on the line. Kanta's smugness only fueled his resolve, and Nicky was never one to back down. "All right," Nicky said, his voice unwavering. "You've got yourself a deal, but don't be too confident, you might just regret underestimating me." Kanta grinned, extending his hand. "Good luck, friend. You're going to need it." The following day, the sun beat down on the bustling streets as Nicky made his way to the marketplace, far from the opulent world he was used to. The market was alive with vendors selling everything from fresh fruit to woven fabrics, with a rich blend of spices perfuming the air. This was not Nicky's typical environment, but today he was on a mission. After asking around, he finally found what he was looking for: Joy's Delight, the bakery he'd heard about. Pausing outside the small, charming storefront, Nicky hesitated. He wasn't just here to win a bet. He was stepping into unfamiliar territory. Taking a breath, he pushed open the door, and the warm scent of fresh bread and pastries greeted him. Behind the counter, a woman worked the dough with practiced, confident hands, her apron snug around her ample frame. This was Chloe. Her dark, curly hair was pulled back into a neat bun, and her round face carried a gentle, albeit tired, expression. Unlike the women Nicky usually pursued, Chloe was real without pretense or airs. She looked up, her eyes widening at the sight of a man in an impeccably tailored suit standing in her bakery. She quickly wiped her hands on her apron and offered a polite smile. "Good morning. Can I help you with something?" Nicky mustered his most charming smile, the bet lingering in the back of his mind. "I'm Nicky. I happened to pass by and couldn't resist the smell. This place smells amazing." Chloe blinked, clearly taken aback by his polished demeanor and unexpected compliment. "Thank you. What would you like to buy?" Nicky realized he hadn't planned that far ahead. He hadn't come here to buy anything, he was here to win her over. Actually, I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner with me tonight, Nikki said, trying to sound casual though feeling a pang of uncertainty of feeling unfamiliar to him. Chloe's eyes narrowed slightly, her arms folding across her chest. Dinner? With you? Her tone was calm but laced with doubt. Nikki nodded, determined. Yes, I'd really love to get to know you better. Chloe studied him, skepticism clear in her gaze. A man like you doesn't usually end up here just by chance. Why are you really here? Nikki paused, surprised by her intuition. Most women would have been flattered by his attention, but Chloe remained unimpressed. Choosing a half-truth, he continued. I was curious about this place. I'll admit, I don't usually venture out here, but something about you, well, it caught my attention. Chloe's expression softened slightly, though she still seemed wary. I'm here until 6. Nikki smiled, relieved she hadn't turned him down outright. 6:30 then? After a pause, Chloe offered a reluctant smile. All right, 6:30. And just like that, Nikki had taken his first step into a world he never thought he'd know. As Nikki left the bakery, his thoughts were swirling. This didn't feel like just a wager anymore. There was something about Chloe that captivated him. Her resistance to his usual charm only made him more determined to know her better. That evening, he arrived at Joy's Delight promptly at 6:30, feeling a strange, unfamiliar nervousness. Chloe stepped out, dressed in a simple dress, her hair cascading in soft curls. She was nothing like the glamorous women he typically pursued, but her beauty was quiet and unassuming, and it struck him in a way he hadn't expected. As they drove through the city in Nikki's sleek black car, Chloe sat in thoughtful silence, her hands resting calmly in her lap. The quiet between them was thick, and Nikki found himself unsure of how to bridge it. This wasn't going to be the straightforward endeavor he'd thought. Arriving at the restaurant, Nikki noticed Chloe's discomfort with the luxurious surroundings, the starched tablecloths, gleaming crystal, and waiters in pressed suits. This was a far cry from the comforting, homey space of her bakery. I don't usually eat in places like this, Chloe admitted softly, her gaze drifting across the menu. Nikki smiled gently, hoping to ease her nerves. No worries. Tonight, just enjoy yourself. This one's on me. Chloe managed a small, cautious smile. It's not the money, it's just, this world isn't mine. I prefer something a bit more modest. Nikki nodded, genuinely appreciating her honesty. The women he usually went out with would have been eagerly posting photos, reveling in the extravagance. But Chloe, she seemed untouched by any of it. And that was something he found remarkably refreshing. As the evening wore on, their conversation grew easier, more natural. Chloe spoke about her bakery, how she had started from scratch after her father's passing, building it up piece by piece. Her dedication and love for her work shone through, and Nikki found himself captivated by her story. What you've built, Chloe, it's incredible, he said, the sincerity evident in his voice. Starting from nothing, that's something to be proud of. Chloe shrugged, a hint of sadness in her eyes. I don't know if it's all that impressive. People judge me first by my size, never bothering to see what I've accomplished. It stings sometimes. A pang of guilt struck Nikki. He'd been one of those people judging her before truly knowing her. He'd come here to fulfill a bet, but as he listened to her, he realized how much more there was to her than he'd initially assumed. Don't let their opinions hold any weight, Nikki said gently. What you've done is something most people can only dream of. That's what matters. Chloe looked at him, genuinely surprised by his earnestness. You really think so? Absolutely, Nikki replied without hesitation. The rest of the evening felt effortless. Nikki found himself more at ease with Chloe than he had been with anyone in a long time. She was genuine, witty, and refreshingly down to earth. By the time he dropped her off at her modest home, he was left with a lingering warmth. What had started as a bet now felt like something deeper, and that, if he was honest, frightened him. Over the following weeks, Nikki made daily visits to Joy's Delight. Sometimes he'd bring flowers, other times small gifts, always eager to talk to Chloe. She was initially guarded, wary of his motives, but gradually her defenses began to melt. Their relationship blossomed slowly and naturally. Chloe was nothing like the women he'd known, those who clung to his status and wealth. She cared deeply about her work, her family, and her humble life. For the first time, Nikki found value in something beyond material success. But as his feelings for her deepened, the weight of the bet became a shadow he couldn't ignore. He knew he had to tell her, but every time he tried, a gripping fear held him back. What if she couldn't forgive him? What if she walked away forever? These fears were new to him, and the thought of losing her was almost unbearable. One evening, after a long day of visiting suppliers for her bakery, Chloe turned to him, her gaze steady. Why are you doing all this, Nikki? Why me? You could have anyone you want. I just don't understand. Nikki felt his heart race. I can't explain it, Chloe. I never planned for this. You make me feel like myself. You don't care about appearances or money. You simply care. A small, tender smile played on Chloe's lips, though uncertainty lingered in her eyes. I've never had someone like you take an interest in me. It sometimes feels too good to be real. The guilt clawed at Nikki, urging him to confess. He wanted to tell her everything, to clear the slate, but the words got caught in his throat. Instead, he took her hand and held it gently. This is real, Chloe. I promise you. By the time a month had slipped by, Nikki realized he was in over his head. His feelings for Chloe were no longer about the bet. He had fallen for her deeply, in a way he never thought possible. She had changed his perspective on life, challenged his definitions of success and joy, and made him rethink everything he thought he knew. When Nikki decided to propose, it wasn't about winning or proving a point. He genuinely wanted her to be part of his life forever. He chose a quiet, modest restaurant far from the high society glitz to make her feel comfortable. After dinner, he got down on one knee and pulled a modest diamond ring from his pocket. Chloe's hands flew to her mouth, eyes wide with shock. Nikki, what are you doing? Nikki's heart pounded as he spoke. Chloe, know this might seem sudden, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I want to spend every day with you. Will you marry me? Tears shimmered in Chloe's eyes as she looked down at the ring, then back at him. I don't know what to say. Are you sure, Nikki? Are you really sure? Nikki nodded, his voice steady. More sure than I've ever been. Chloe's hands shook as she reached for the ring. Yes, she whispered softly. Yes, I'll marry you. Their wedding was small and intimate, nothing like the grand affair Nikki's friends might have expected. He had insisted on keeping it simple, just family and close friends. Chloe's mother, Mama Noah, shed tears of joy as she watched her daughter walk down the aisle in a simple white dress. Nikki's heart swelled with love as he saw Chloe approach, more radiant than ever. For a brief moment, everything felt perfect. But as the ceremony went on, a nagging guilt crept back into Nikki's heart. He had won her over, married her. Yet the weight of the bet cast a shadow he couldn't ignore. He feared the day the truth would come out and the damage it would bring. As often happens, the secret was exposed at a gathering. 3 months had passed since their wedding, and Nikki and Chloe's life had become more genuine and fulfilling. They had even begun discussing the idea of expanding her bakery to other locations. But one evening at a casual get-together, Kanta, inebriated and careless, blurted out the truth. You know, Nikki only married Chloe because of a bet, right? Kanta laughed, his words slurred. It was just a game. I never thought he'd actually do it. Chloe, standing nearby, overheard him. Her face went pale, her whole world spinning. She stood frozen, struggling to comprehend the betrayal. She turned to Kanta, her voice a fragile whisper. What did you say? Kanta's laughter faded instantly as he realized his mistake. Chloe, it's not what you think. But the damage was done. Chloe fled the party, tears streaming down her face. Her marriage, her love, had all been built on a lie. She felt humiliated, betrayed, and utterly broken. That night, Chloe packed her bags. When Nikki came home and saw her suitcase by the door, his heart sank. He rushed to her, desperation in his voice. Chloe, please, wait. Let me explain. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she shook her head. Explain what, Nikki? That our whole marriage was a joke? That I was just some part of a bet? It began as a bet, but it's not anymore, Nikki pleaded. I swear I love you. I fell in love with you, Chloe. You changed me. Her face crumpled as she choked back a sob. How can I trust anything you say now? You lied to me, Nikki. You broke my heart. She left, leaving Nikki standing alone, devastated. The weeks that followed were empty. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think of anything but Chloe and how he'd shattered her heart. The wealth, the land inlay, everything that once seemed important now felt worthless without her. Nikki tried everything to win her back. He sent flowers, wrote heartfelt letters, and called countless times. But Chloe wouldn't respond. She had moved back in with her mother, Mama Noah, who was furious when she learned of the bet. You are no man, Nikki, Mama Noah spat when he showed up one day pleading to see Chloe. You played with my daughter's heart. You'll never see her again." He left, feeling defeated yet resolute. He knew he had to make things right however long it would take. One day, after weeks of waiting, Chloe finally agreed to see him. They met at her bakery, the place where it all began. Chloe stood behind the counter, her face pale, the warmth in her eyes replaced by sadness. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you, Nikki," she whispered, barely able to speak. "You broke my heart. How can I trust you again?" Nikki knelt, his voice thick with regret. "I know I hurt you, Chloe. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I love you. I never meant to fall in love, but I did. Please give me a chance to make it right." Chloe looked at him, her eyes glistening with tears. "I don't know if I can." Nikki's heart sank, but he nodded. "I'll wait as long as it takes. I'll do anything." Time passed, and gradually Chloe softened. She saw a genuine change in Nikki, the humility, the willingness to earn her trust back. In the end, it wasn't his extravagant gestures that moved her, but his sincerity. He showed her that his love was real, far beyond any game or wager. He truly cared for her. One evening, as they sat alone in her bakery, Chloe spoke gently. "I'm willing to give us another chance. But you need to understand, Nikki, love is not a game. If you hurt me again, there won't be a third chance." Nikki nodded, his heart brimming with gratitude. "I swear, Chloe, I'll never take you for granted again." They renewed their vows in a simple ceremony, with only family and friends, no media or fanfare, just love. This time, their marriage was built on something authentic, something unbreakable. Chloe opened her dream bakery, Joy's Delight, in a prime spot on Athena Island, with Nikki supporting her at every step. The scars of their past were still there, but together they found a way to heal. At the grand opening of the bakery, as customers poured in, Chloe turned to Nikki, a smile playing on her lips. "I never imagined I'd be here," she said softly. Nikki squeezed her hand, smiling back. "Neither did I, but I'm so grateful we are." For the first time, Nikki felt truly at peace. He had gained far more than a piece of land or a bet. He had won the love of a woman who had changed his life forever. Years passed, and Nikki and Chloe's journey together blossomed into something even more beautiful than they'd ever dreamed. They became parents to 3 wonderful children, each a remarkable blend of their mother's compassion and father's resilience. Their children grew to be strong, intelligent, and grounded, embracing values Nikki and Chloe instilled in them from a young age. As the years unfolded, their children rose as leaders in their own right, carrying forward the legacy of love, integrity, and dedication their parents had built. One evening, as the family gathered in their cozy home on Athena Island, Nikki watched Chloe with admiration in his eyes. They were in their early 60s now, and though time had left its mark, the spark between them had only grown brighter. "You know," Nikki murmured, reaching for Chloe's hand, "I don't think I could have imagined a more beautiful life than the one I have with you." Chloe's smile was soft, her gaze filled with the same warmth that had drawn him in all those years ago. "You say that now," she teased gently, "but remember, you nearly let me walk away. Twice." "Ah." Nikki laughed, squeezing her hand. "And I would have deserved it every time." His voice softened, and he looked at her with a depth of gratitude that words could never fully capture. "Thank you for forgiving me, Chloe. For giving me this life." As they sat together, their children Peter, Sarah, and Lucas joined them, each one bringing stories from their lives. Peter, the eldest, had followed in Nikki's footsteps, blending business acumen with an innate sense of justice that made him a respected leader. Sarah, compassionate and sharp-witted, had taken up social work and diplomacy, becoming a prominent voice for the underprivileged. Lucas, the youngest, with Chloe's love for community and Nikki's strength, had turned to politics, becoming a thoughtful, ethical leader. "Mama." "Papa," Sarah spoke up, her voice warm and full of pride. "Do you realize how much you've influenced us? Everything we do, all the choices we make, they're because of what you taught us." Chloe's eyes filled with tears as she reached out to her daughter. "I'm so proud of you all," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Each of you has taken what your father and I tried to teach you and turned it into something I could never have dreamed." Nikki looked around at his family, a profound sense of contentment settling in his heart. "You 3 are our greatest legacy," he said, voice firm but gentle. "You're each making the world better in your own way. And that's everything I could have hoped for." Later that evening, after their children had gone, Nikki and Chloe lingered in the quiet, wrapped in the warmth of their memories. "Do you remember the first time we met at the bakery?" Nikki asked, his eyes twinkling. Chloe chuckled, resting her head on his shoulder. Of course. I was kneading dough, and in walks this man in a suit, looking completely out of place. Nikki grinned. You had flour on your nose. I remember thinking you were the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. Chloe rolled her eyes playfully. Liar. You were there for a bet, remember? He laughed, but his tone grew serious. Yes, I was. But that changed the moment I saw you. Everything changed. Chloe looked up at him, her face softened by time but her gaze still sharp and full of life. I think you've made up for it, Mr. Nikki. Nikki pulled her close, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. Not enough. I don't think I ever could. In the years that followed, as their children grew more prominent, Chloe and Nikki continued to support them quietly, always there as a foundation of love and strength. Their home on Athena Island became a sanctuary where the family would gather to escape the pressures of public life, to reconnect and recharge. Nikki, who had once been a businessman with eyes only for wealth, found his true treasure in these moments of laughter and togetherness. One day, Peter came to his parents with a proposal. Mama, Papa, he said, seated at their kitchen table, I think it's time we expand Joy's delight. Chloe's eyes widened, her hands stilling on her teacup. You think so? It was always meant to be something small and personal, Peter. Peter shook his head. Mama, your bakery is more than just a place for pastries. It's a symbol of resilience, of hard work, of family. We want to honor that. Sarah, Lucas, and we've been talking about opening a new location in the capital. A place where people can come, not just for food, but for a sense of community. Chloe looked to Nikki, her heart swelling with pride and a touch of trepidation. Do you think we're ready for that, Nikki? Nikki smiled, his eyes warm and encouraging. Chloe, if our children believe in it, then we should too. Besides, he added with a grin, I think the world could use a little more of Joy's delight. The years rolled on and Joy's delight grew into a beloved institution. Its new location in the heart of the capital became a gathering place for politicians, community leaders, and everyday citizens alike. The bakery wasn't just a business, it was a testament to Chloe and Nikki's journey, a reminder of love's ability to heal, to forgive, and to grow. As Nikki and Chloe entered their later years, their love only deepened. They spent mornings walking hand in hand along the shores of Athena Island, reflecting on the life they'd built together. Nikki often marveled at how the journey that had begun with a careless bet had led to a life so rich, so deeply fulfilling. Chloe, he whispered one morning as they strolled along the beach, I don't think I could ever love anyone the way I love you. Chloe squeezed his hand, a tear slipping down her cheek. And I don't think I could have found anyone who could change so profoundly for me. They stopped, looking out over the water, the rising sun casting a golden glow over the horizon. Chloe leaned her head against Nikki's shoulder, her voice soft. You are my heart, Nikki. My home. Their children continued to make strides in their respective fields, bringing pride and honor to the family name. Peter, with his keen business skills, became a key figure in economic reform. Sarah's compassion and intelligence led to her being appointed as an ambassador, bridging gaps and creating understanding across borders. Lucas, with his natural charisma and deep-rooted morals, became a beloved leader, known for his integrity and his dedication to the people. Despite their accomplishments, each of the children held close the lessons their parents had taught them. That family was a sanctuary, that love and forgiveness could overcome anything, and that true wealth lay in relationships, not material gain. In their twilight years, Nikki and Chloe found joy in the simple things, quiet evenings with a cup of tea, the laughter of grandchildren filling their home, and the knowledge that their journey together had left an indelible mark on the world. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Nikki took Chloe's hand, his voice filled with wonder. Can you believe it? Chloe? We built all this, from a simple bakery and a foolish bet. Chloe laughed softly, her eyes glistening. It's not the bet, Nikki. It's what came after, the love, the forgiveness, the choices we made together. Nikki kissed her hand, gratitude filling every part of him. Thank you for choosing me, Chloe. Thank you for giving me a life I never deserved. Chloe leaned into him, her heart as full as it had been that day he'd knelt down with a ring all those years ago. And thank you, Nikki, for making every day better than the last. Their love story, which had begun with skepticism and a wager, became a legend of its own, not just to their children, but to everyone who crossed paths with them. They had shown that true love isn't perfect, nor is it easy. It's the courage to grow, the strength to forgive, and the faith to hold on through every trial. In their final years, as they watched their children lead the nation with honor and grace, Mickey and Chloe knew that the love they had shared had rippled through generations, leaving a legacy far beyond what they could have imagined. And as they sat side by side, hands intertwined, they felt a peace that comes only to those who have loved deeply and lived fully. Their story was a reminder that life is full of unexpected turns, but with love and forgiveness, every journey can become something extraordinary. The end. Thank you for joining me on this heartfelt journey. If you enjoyed this story and want more, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for what's next. Your support means everything to me. Until next time.